The journal is brought to you by Treason. Don't just blend, become. Splitting Image Taxidermy. Thoughtful, thorough, thankful. Maxxis Tires. Covering PHs over any terrain. Magnum Archery. Black Widow Broadheads. Always deadly. Carbon Core Arrows. 100% premium carbon. PH Toolbox. Helping you make your own adventure.
How's it, guys? So as mentioned before, I'm joined with, like I said, not just a friend anymore. It's a family member, Mr. Pat Dugan. Pat, man, last time this year, we were doing it all back in South Africa. Now I'm doing it here in the beautiful little town of Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah, finally from the right side of the world here.
I've been learning to drive on the wrong side of the road as well. It's been a hell of a journey to try and adapt to it, but I think towards the end I've kind of mastered it.
Well, I don't know. Is the left turn still the same on this side of the world as it is down there?
I went to the gym the other day and I pulled out. You know, it's got that V outside the gym.
Yeah.
And I pulled out on the left hand side, and this guy was like waiting, and I was waiting for him to come in, and he was like flashing me and going off, and I was like, oh man, I'm on the wrong side of the road. But anyway, it's been good fun. One thing that's pretty cool about the whole driving on the wrong side of the road, and it's something I've always mentioned in my videos and stuff that I do online, it's about changing the perspective, you know, changing perspective about, I think sometimes we get a little bit complacent in life and in our journeys, and changing the perspective and getting out of your comfort zones, not only an adventure, but it opens your eyes up to a whole new possibilities, and it's a pretty cool thing.
Possibilities and perspectives. You know, that's kind of the thing. That's why I always love to travel so much, is not just for the hunting, not just for the fishing, but to see how the rest of the world lives. You know, you being here for the last almost month now, we've talked about this time and time again, you know, buying something on this side of the world versus buying something over there, you know, your VAT tax, which would be our sales tax on this side. The differences, you know, 21, 22% for you at home, you know, and that's after whoever imports what product you're buying, for all purposes intended, gets raped, bringing it in, paying a super high duty coming in, and then you having to pay that VAT tax on top of it. I mean, when you literally see at the gun store in Queenstown, a set of binoculars that we would buy here off the shelf for $250, they wanted the equivalent of 2,000 American dollars on the shelf. And it's like, gosh, they're not even that good. You know, they're an okay pair, but they weren't ever meant to be a $2,000 pair of binoculars. So perspective is always good for everybody to learn. And that's kind of always why I say for people, if they're going to come and they're going to take the time to go someplace else in the world, take the time to travel a little bit. Go. I can't even begin to tell you, you know, Luis with Spain Safaris, multitudes of other PHs that have hunted me around the world. They get upset and they're, well, why do you want to go to a store? Why would you want to go to a grocery store? Because I want to see what your products are, and I want to see how you all live. What's the norm for you? What's the norm for us? And it allows us to learn that perspective. And perspective is when you walk that mile in somebody else's shoes, you get a full grip of what their life is like. So,
yeah, and I think I think you touched on a very important point there, and it was, I think that's what COVID should have taught a lot of professional hunters. It certainly taught me that, you know, value the smaller things, because often what happens is we get caught up in the industry, and you know, it's go, and it seems like everything's jam packed. Guys are coming out for 7-day safaris, and I'll never forget it. One of the first hunts in my last season, and it was Chris Triggers. He stopped me and he said, no, I just want to have a look at that bird quickly. And it was a little hoopoo, something I've taken for granted for many, many years. And it sort of reminded me to go back to that space I was at when we did our hunt in January, appreciating what can very quickly be taken away from us and trying to appreciate the smaller things that actually matter. And I'll never forget that. But before we miss the topic here, Pat, perspective and traveling, I wanted to touch on that because, getting here was certainly not easy. I think Greg was a very brave man to play the lottery on our airplane tickets by holding them until the last minute, until Biden opened up. But the travel, surprisingly, other than the distance, it really wasn't bad. And I know from my perspective, to try and understand that is kind of important, because you understand what your clients are going through to get to South Africa. But I want them to hear from you that it's I can't believe it, when doing all these shows, how many people are actually still afraid to travel. And it's not because of the virus, it's more because of the inconvenience of wearing a mask and doing that sort of stuff. It really isn't that bad at the end of the day.
It's not. I mean, for the anti-maskers, the anti-vaxxers, and, in general, I think the majority of it is just the fact that most Americans are generally displeased with the fact that somebody is telling us we have to do something. In America, with our Constitution, nobody has to do anything. And I think that's really where a lot of that came into. And then, you couple that with the fact that you go ahead and take the vaccine, you wear the mask, you still get sick and you still almost die. That's something, and now, you heard me get a little ruckus with some people in Vegas, and, why do I need to wear the mask? What good does it do? I took your vaccine. For me to travel through Europe when this first came out and they opened up travel, you had to have a vaccine. Well, now the European Union is actually saying, well, they're recognizing the fact that it's not doing any good.
Yeah.
And they're backing off of that mandate and saying, look, just have a negative COVID test and we're happy with that. So, that portion of it, yes. The mask, it's really not that big a deal. Just change the mask out. That's the biggest thing, because if you don't change your mask out often enough, you really are going to keep breathing that same moist air, and it's going to give you a little bit of a cough and a little bit of a sore throat when you finally reach the destination. But ultimately, find the rules to get around it. Their rules say, jump on the plane and while you're eating and while you're drinking, you can have your mask off. Well, buy a 10-pound bag of gummy bears. And as long as you're eating, you don't have to have the mask on. And that's taken a bit far, but seriously, it's not that difficult. I mean, we've all been patient enough here in the United States and throughout the world that we wear the mask. We've been wearing the mask in the stores, and you go into government buildings and you have to have the mask on. And we've had the mask on for hours at a time and stuff. Yes, if you fly, for me, I have to go from Phoenix to Newark or Atlanta, Dulles to get a straight through flight. Or I can fly from Phoenix into someplace in Qatar. I can fly to Qatar. I can fly Amsterdam. I can fly London, any of those.
Yeah. And
I can break that flight up into some different time zones and things like that, to where it isn't just a straight 15-hour shot, which, to be honest with you, really is kind of the way to go. Both of them have advantages. Both of them have disadvantages. I have found at times that I just want to be the heck off a plane. So 15 hours can get a little grueling. The beautiful part is that, you take off generally from the United States at about 6 or 7 o'clock in the afternoon. You get up in the air, they give you your food. You have a TV in the back of every seat, whether you're in economy or if you're in the pods or the cubicles or whatever you're flying in, and you have your own TV, you have your own space. And just put your headphones on, put your mask on, and watch TV. And then after an hour or so, tip your seat back, go to sleep. you'll be asleep for hopefully 6 to 8 hours, and by the time you've eaten dinner and everything, now you're talking close to 10 hours. When you wake up, you're in it for another 5 hours. Big deal. Big deal. Get to the next airport. Obviously, you're still going to have to wear that mask in the airport because, God bless them, that's what they want. So go get checked in. You go through the customs and whatnot, and go check back in. And you're going to have a few hours in between. Go outside. Well, there's no rule that says you can't walk outside. They just are going to tell you, if you're going to come back in, you have to go through this door, not through this door, because they're trying to keep people coming out and people going in at a safe distance from each other. Walk outside. If you smoke a cigarette. If you don't smoke, then just go outside, sit down, and enjoy some fresh air for once. And then go back inside, catch your next flight. You're on the next flight for an hour to East London. And then once you're at East London,
no, there is a bit of a layover. So depending which flight you take, if you fly in the direct flight, you'll 9 times out of 10 you'll land in the evening. So you'll have to sleep over.
Yeah.
So let's chat a little bit about that quickly. First things first, it's not mandatory to have a vaccine to get into South Africa.
It is not, no.
Nor is it to get into America. Am I correct?
It is not.
So from a South African perspective, you need to have your PCR test 72 hours before departure. And before you disembark from South Africa, it needs to be 24 hours. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah. And, our COVID test results, we normally go in at 8 o'clock in the morning. By 10 o'clock at night, we've got our results back in South Africa.
Yep.
So there's really nothing, all the excuses and all of that sort of stuff that I've heard at the shows. Oh, no, well, I've got to get vaccinated. I've got to do this. Now that's the cutoff's 24 hours and all this sort of stuff. It's really nothing that we haven't done before. We've been doing this for a whole year now.
Sure.
So, all those sort of excuses, what it does just add is, it actually doesn't add anything. It's just, that's about it.
A trip to town. That's really it. It's one little extra trip to town because you have to run into Queenstown to get that test on the way back. And I don't know that coming from SA back to America is 24 hours anymore. Did you guys have to have the 24-hour come in this time?
Hours, yeah.
Okay, so it's still 24.
Because they changed it now on the second time that they shut us out. But what I did want to say is that the only inconvenience is, depends how you look at it, is that you might just need to, I would recommend you adding a day or two extra onto your hunting days.
For sure.
Because, normally if you're coming out for a 7-day hunting day period, you normally lose about half a day on the 7th day or on the 6th day because you're going in for your vaccine, your
COVID test,
PCR test. So maybe just consider adding an extra day.
And my feelings about that anyway is that, for the life of me, I don't know that I'm going to travel that far to do a 5-day hunt.
Yeah.
We did the 7-day hunt once. Good Lord above, I would never do that again in my lifetime. You really don't. Yeah, you've heard me talk to people. And again, this is one of the things, I helped you guys in the booth and, I have plans to do the show in Scottsdale and things like that. And one of the things that I tell people is, look, I am not making any money.
Yeah.
I don't get paid any amount of money. I don't want to make any money. All I want to do is help my friends sell some hunts, and I want to help my fellow Americans discover a whole nother area. And there's a gratification that comes with that, and I don't get paid. I get paid nothing, and in the long run, I'm losing on this deal, and I'm okay with that because as long as I'm helping sell hunts, you guys will always be there, and as long as I'm matching up new Americans to come and do this, it's bringing more people to the table to understand the whole hunting and conservation and around the world.
Yeah.
And that's a biggie to me, is the huge part of the conservation. But I've always said a 10-day minimum, 10 days, because if you do a 7-day hunt, the jet lag is there for the first 2, and God help you, it's not there the 3rd day.
Yeah.
You know, if maybe you can finally start to feel good that third day, well, guess what? You got 4 and 5, and then you got to start worrying about going home. 6 and 7, it becomes, well, oh man, now you're starting to get that drag and that guttural punch in the stomach that says, you know, I got to leave now. You know, where if you do the 10-day hunt, and me personally, my favorite, it's 12 days.
Yeah.
You know, we've been there 14 because we kind of got stuck there a little bit. Yeah. Thanks to Amsterdam changing their rules at the last minute, we ended up having to fly through a different couple places, but we may do, you know, and I do honestly say that 14 days can be, it's almost like 2 days too much. 12 is the perfect amount of time. You know, to me, 10 would be, you know, that pushing it smallest amount of time that I would want to spend out of country, 12 being the most. And it just seems to fit. It allows you to relax. It allows you to do that little Pat Dugan thing where we just go for a ride and we relax. And the perspective, and again, this all comes back into perspective, because what do you take in when you're relaxed? When you feel good and you know that you're not rushed to do something, you're allowed to look back in January, you know, the little yellow bird that we found on the fences down by Coral Brook. You know, we stopped, we were there an hour trying to get pictures of this little tiny yellow bird. And he's rushing around, and there's, you know, 4 or 5 females that are rushing around, and a few more of the males came in. It was spectacular. And it wasn't that we weren't burning any time to go push the hunt, but we were allowed to take a moment to be human and just observe something.
Yeah, but I mean, January was a special time because,
well, there was nobody there, so.
And it did feel like we kind of pushed, but had a good time at the same time.
Yes.
You know, like the places we got to see doing the bushback down at the coast in Port Alfred, and we did the Graceback. We stayed over there. It was beautiful. Willowmore, you know, we almost seemed like we were pushed into those positions, but with time, with enough time. You know?
Yes.
So it wasn't.
We did a massive amount in that time.
Yeah,
a massive amount in that time. You know, and I will agree, it did seem like we were pushing, and we did push to get to the next location, but once we were at the next location, we had time to rest. You know, we were allowed to take it all in. I mean, we literally set up under a tree and, you know, at a picnic table, for goodness sakes, on the Uniondale property and take a shot at a springbuck. You know, I mean, it's those little things. And then just an hour later, you guys tracked out to take a zebra with Asha. You know, I mean, we had enough time to be relaxed at every stop. And that included, you know, being able to go to St. Francis and spend a couple days at the St. Francis house and things like that. You know, I would say the really only fast push day that we had was the day we landed, because we literally landed, you grabbed us and were like, why aren't you in your hunting clothes? I thought you were joking. He said, no. And in 3 hours, we're going to be hunting. So I found myself changing into hunting clothes beside a barn so we could go Oribi hunting, which was exhilarating, because obviously, number one, that was one of my tiny 10 that I was super stoked to actually be able to obtain a tag, and that was only because there was nobody there. And we still had a day or two left in December, I shouldn't say that, not in December, but in 2020. So the tags for 2020 were still open. So we were able to obtain that tag and use that tag for that hunt. But, you know, it really wasn't that hard of a hunt. And I, you know, again, that's one of those perspective things. When you see an animal that doesn't get hunted as much, they aren't as wary as some of the others. You know, some of these animals, they even think you're coming. They're running 100 miles an hour away from you. So, you know, we hunted that. We went out. We took that that one quick stalk on the blue diker.
Yeah, the little drop we did there.
Yeah, and then unfortunately Rob's dogs ran the other direction. So, by the way, don't get a basset hound. I guess they were beagles, right? Yeah, they're beagles. So, yeah, they were really noisy, but they ran the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So, but I think he got him back a couple days later, so no big deal. But like I said, then after coming, we went to Uniondale after the St. Francis for 2 days. We went to Uniondale. We were able to go do the Clippy.
Willowmore, beautiful area.
Beautiful area. Probably one of the nicer spots I've ever seen in South Africa. And South Africa still never seems to stop amazing me at the beauty that it beholds. I mean, it truly is a very wonderful country in the diversity of what's there and the topography of what's there. But, then we go back from Uniondale and we go back to the beach. Asha takes a Jim Dandy of a bush buck, literally 200 yards from where I shot my bush buck. I mean, that's something. I think it was 2 years later, and a year and a half anyway. But still, being able to be on the same piece of property and having that same beautiful backdrop, and although it was a little warmer, being that it was summer, some of those who know me out there know that I'm a little bit of a larger fella, and when you wear a coat all year round, it kind of gets a little warm for you. But it was beautiful. It actually was beautiful. The little bit of humidity actually kind of kept you somewhat cool with that breeze. But shooting that, then going out and staying at that beautiful cabin back in that canyon.
That was cool.
Taking a dip in the pool, take a nice little rest. We go back out that night and, we able to hit the gristbuck and the, what else we hit that night? I guess it just was the gristbuck that night. We seen a lot of other animals though.
Hunting in the pineapple fields.
Yep. Hunting pineapple fields. It's amazing how many pineapple fields there really are there. I mean, everybody thinks that Hawaii's full of pineapple fields. Well, there's a ton of them there too. So, and it was spectacular. I mean, seeing the whole different perspective of how you do different hunts on different animals and whatnot. And that truly was spectacular for me. Wake up the next morning, we go back down and we get with the guys and we go do the blue diker, and we ended up taking just a Jim Dandy of a blue diker, and to actually finally get to pick it up and hold it, and it weighs, a quarter of what a baby weighs when it's brand new. I mean, and to know it's an antelope is nuts, but that was fun. Then traveling back up to, the main lodge, we just were allowed to have fun. Relax. We still got to go out to, I think we went, I have to think about that. I don't think we went to Comray in January, but I do think.
No, we did do Rocklands.
We did do Rocklands. Yeah. Yes.
But
So
we didn't go that way.
but you can't go to SA without going to see Mama Lucy.
Yeah. Enjoying the beauty of Rocklands. It does get hot there, though. I mean, geez, Simon posted a picture the other day of, I think it was like 42 degrees at Rocklands. So I don't know what's that in high or low hundreds in Fahrenheit.
Yeah, about 105, something like that. Yeah.
Oh.
Bitter hot.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's Vegas kind of weather.
Yeah.
And it's humid and it's...
Yeah. Especially now with your monsoon. So.
But that's something as well I wanted to touch base on, because I mean I just finished that hunt now in December with Cody, and I think the season, as busy as what it was, it allowed for opportunities for hunts to sort of take place when and where people could fit them in, because obviously with COVID added a whole bunch of like scatterbrains, like people overbooking, overlapping, postponing, doing all that sort of things. So people pushed it later on into the season. I mean, I've never really done a hunt in December, but let me tell you something. It was one of the prettiest hunts I've ever done, because with the thunderstorms, I mean, we had Fetvlei and Uniondale, the thunderstorms there. I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, it's a really special time of the year, and I hope I definitely get to do it again, and it's sort of changed. Like we keep talking about perspective. It's sort of changed my perspective on hunting season and all that sort of stuff. Being a PH, you start getting more wary around that time of the year with the females with little ones, and breeding stock and all that sort of stuff. What are you doing? How are you going to manage? So you're really just looking for the oldest you possibly can.
As you should anyway.
Yeah. But I mean, from you taking extra notice in that sort of stuff, and you're hunting different times. You're hunting early morning, late evening, and that middle period of the day is just time to rest and kick back. Otherwise, it's also taught me a lot about client management. So you get out there, you don't want you guys overheating. I mean, I told you about some French clients that I had that just by the third day they were so sunstroke and sunburns and stuff. They couldn't move for 2 days. So that's definitely taught me a lesson. Something that I'm still learning so late into my career. But Pat, what if there was one thing that you could take away from the shows to share with people, something that you've picked up, like a concern or something that people have worried about during the show season, especially now you're going to Scottsdale,
Scottsdale, yep.
What kind of message would you have to them about coming over, whether it's this year or next year?
Well, the big thing is stop the worrying. Don't let, for goodness sakes, let's not let the Joe Bidens and the presidents and prime ministers from around the world who want to control our lives do just that. Stop it. Put the mask on, take a flight, go travel, because ultimately that's what they're wanting us to do, is to be locked inside of our houses so that they have the utmost control. Stop it. Go do it. Go have fun. And that's what I seen. There was 2 or 3 people at these shows that had voiced big concern and said that they were not coming this year because, well, I'm just not going to come until this mask thing is over. Well, what if this mask thing isn't over for the next 5 years? The next variant and the next variant and the next variant and then the next disease. My honest opinion is that we're stuck with this. We're gonna be a masking society. You have to stop and realize, man, China has been doing this for decades. China has been wearing masks for decades. It started in the 90s, in the early 2000s, into the teens, and now they've been wearing it.
Yes, Pat, when you say it like that, from that perspective, it's flipping scary to think.
It is scary, but you
think that these people got us by the balls, kind of thing.
Well, they do until we get the balls enough to say enough's enough, and that's what it's going to take, whether it be a voting session or whatever it's going to be. I mean, Spain right now is having some pretty big riots going on. I mean, barricades being chucked at people and things at the police and the government and all that, because they're tired of it. The same thing's going on in Australia. The same thing's going on in multitudes of countries around the world, because people want to live. Nobody should be able to tell us when and where we can't live, and how we should live, and what we can and can't do. So my point is this: stop letting them tell you. Stop letting them tell you, and just go enjoy yourself and have some fun. And this, whether you go to South Africa, you go to Spain for a Monteria in October, whatever it's going to be, go do it. Because ultimately, you don't know. Everybody keeps hoping. Everybody had high hopes for 2021. Oh, this is all going to go away. We all took a vaccine. It's all going to go away. Nah, no, it didn't, did it? No, then just up popped this nice little Delta variant. Well, yours truly just about bit the dust on that one after taking the vaccine and wearing the mask and socially distancing and dousing myself with freaking lighter fluid as a, alcohol yeah, jeez. I mean, they tell you to use this stuff, Germex and everything. Oh, well, it's alcohol. I'm a welder. You know, I mean, I might as well be dousing myself with a lighter fluid, for God's sakes, you know. But we did all that, and everybody said 2021's going to be the change, and then everybody, you know, we dredged through 2021, and then 2022 is going to be the it's all going to change. Are you sure? Are you sure? I don't think so.
Well, you guys had the chance to keep Trump in office. But
well, it wasn't my doings, pal. We've already had this argument. I think we've wrestled a couple times about this, but you're right. I mean, we ended up not getting the right president back in, and unfortunately, I don't. Even Trump had his problems with COVID. I mean, nobody knew what this was going to do. Nobody. You know, and
but I do think it could have been handled in a better way, because, like I said to you, it just scares the living shit. I mean, the minute America loses its mind about something small, the rest of the world seems to follow. I mean, you guys by far the leaders in the world, and now it just seems like, and no offense to anyone, but it just seems like you guys have lost your way a little bit, so the rest of the world's losing it completely, you know. And I'm talking.
I agree. I agree.
Let's not talk too much politics here.
Well, yeah. Well,
let's talk about.
Listen, happy times. Happy times.
But let's talk about your Spain hunt, the Monteria.
Okay.
Tell me about. I mean, I've never done it.
Well, you haven't done it yet, but I keep saying that you're already booked for October. So whether you like it or not, you're coming. And we're gonna have a good time. I mean, a Monteria style hunt it's a whole nother perspective to hunting. You grow up in a place like Arizona where 99% of the time you're gonna spot and stalk everything you do. You know, it starts with sitting on a hill, glassing, trying to find that animal. Find the animal, you move in on the animal. We would sit and.
So wait, hang on. Oh, you didn't shoot anything out of the Monteria this last time you were there?
Yeah, I did.
Did you do a Monteria?
I did a Monteria 2 years ago.
So this last time you shot
this last one in October.
You shot 2 ibex.
I did the 2 ibex and the Balearian buck.
And the Balearian buck, how did you shoot that? Walk and stalk.
Walk and stalk, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was one of those Monteria.
No. There because of the vid, you know, there was no Monteria set up because they were worried about putting a massive amount of people in small confined spaces.
Okay.
And I'll get to that whole ordeal, but so doing a Monteria, going back from the spot and stalk and glassing that you would do in the United States here in the Southwest, you go to the Midwest where you build a high stand and you sit and you wait for the deer to come through on pre-cut trails and things like that, and you food plot them to attract them and those kinds of things. So going to South Africa where you're jumping in a buggy and you're driving around and you're hunting from the back of the buggy and you always knew that wasn't my style. I mean, there's a few animals you're just going to have to do it because they're just too damn spooky. But again, it's a different perspective. So when you get to Spain and you do the Monteria, you go out into the woods, and it's from everything that I have been told about this is that the government comes in and they do a land study, and they tell that landowner, your population of animals is too high. You need to back your animals down. And so he'll set up a Monteria, and a Monteria is basically you take a good number of people. I don't want to say guys because women hunt too. But you take a good group of people and you line them up in a square U in a massive opening. So, I mean, you're far enough apart from each other. I suppose if you were to take very good aim, you probably could hit somebody else. But once we were in the woods, I never actually saw another hunter anywhere near me because you're spaced out far enough that the animals are driven through funnels and they kind of predetermine where these funnels are at, and they mark these locations, and they put you at these locations because the animals use those escape routes.
So this is all free range animals.
Most of the ones I did last time were free range. Yes.
They don't have high fence here though.
They do have high fences
really?
in Spain. Yes, they do. So the next Monteria is actually on a high fence, but again, the government has stepped in and said you have too many animals, so he has to do the Monteria. There's no, it's just not sustainable to have that group of animals on that piece of property, or they're gonna start to decline. So you start to end up with things like chronic wasting disease and everything else.
Yeah.
So, but you line up in this square U, and then up through the bottom of that open U, you run dogs and people up through that bottom, making a lot of noise, and the animals are escaping you. And they pretty much have you set up on what they consider to be the escape routes. And when the animals come to you, be fast and be good, because if you're not, you're going to miss. I think I ended up taking, I think I ended up shooting around 12 or 13 animals, and over 3 days. And I think I shot 37 times or 38 times.
So they do the same job every day.
Yeah. Well, another spot. They pick another spot.
Until the quota is taken off.
So they actually, again, this is a very neat and interesting ordeal. When you start in the morning on a Monteria, you show up at this hall, and it's kind of like a little city hall, and it's jam-packed full of people, and you eat this traditional fried bread, and it's not like what most Americans would consider like an Indian fried bread.
So there's local hunters in there.
Yes, there is, very much. Yeah, there was hundreds of us. And they'll chop up a bread, and they fry it in olive oil with eggs and chorizo and things like that. And you eat this because you do want it to be a very hearty meal, because you're going to stand out in the woods for about the next 6 hours. It can be cold. Most of the time it's cool, but it can be cold. And then the last day was actually extremely rainy. So we were in rain gear and whatnot as well. But so you gather into this hall, they feed you. Everybody joins in for this Spanish prayer of, God, long live God, long live Queen and the King, and so on to the animals and blah, blah, blah. And there's a big table laid out, and there's an envelope, rows of envelopes laid out on this table, and they call your name, you walk up and you draw an envelope. Okay. In that envelope is your spot. Okay. There's no name on the envelope. What you pick is your spot. So it's like a lottery. So if you pick a bad spot, it's your spot. If you pick a good spot, it's your spot. No one can tell you where these animals are going to run. They're going to run where they want to run. There was a Russian gentleman that hunted with us the last go around. Wonderful, wonderful man. Vladimir was his name. Was not Putin, by the way.
Yeah, typical Russian name.
Yeah. So he, the first 2 days, I think only like 5 animals ran past this poor guy, The third day, this guy shot 33 animals.
In one day.
That's what he shot.
Oh, so maybe he just shot better than you.
That's not including what he missed. I mean, it just seemed like there was a funnel that went straight towards him, and that's everything ran his way. So, that's the luck of the draw, so to speak, with the Monteria. After the Monteria is done, you do the hunt. These gatherers go out and they gather the animals and they tag them. And you, as the hunter, you go back to most of the time it's a barn. You go back to the barn, and there's a big spread of food. I mean, there's food everywhere, and there's drinks everywhere. And the camaraderie, even though you don't speak the same language, the camaraderie is there. And just the feel of brotherhood that you will get from people you don't even know, because we're all in it for the same thing.
Yeah.
And then these guys bring in all the animals and they lay them out, and you were given tags at the beginning of this deal, and I still have some of the tags. I should actually dig them out and show them to you. But they're little coins, and they have my name on it. And there's a little ribbon, and they'll tie it around the horn, or they'll tie it around a leg, or whatever it is, so you can see what the animals were that you shot. And you basically are, hey, this is what I shot. Come check this out, and it gives that little, pride and joy, and everybody gets a general happiness for each other.
But did they all do this through one outfitter?
Throughout, yes, one outfitter.
So this Spain Safaris.
Spain Safaris, yes, they organized it.
Organize everything.
They did not organize the whole event. Just the group of guys that I was with. Like I said,
how many of them were you?
Oh boy,
But you get
around 20, I think.
You can have up to. I think Louis said 20. Yeah.
On this next one, we're only going to do 20
20.
because it's on a high fence. It's a private one,
Okay.
and we're not wanting to bring in a lot of locals and stuff. The one day that we did, the first day we did the Monterey, I would say there was probably close to 100 hunters. Okay, so it was quite massive. And they didn't organize those guys. That Monterey was organized by whoever the landowner was, but we were organized by Spain Safaris with our group. So, going back to this new Monterey, these guys are, it's for, is the time that the government sets forth of when it's going to happen. I do think that the red stags tend to follow the same rutting season as elk do, which would be more in that September, October, early part of October, not late part of October. And that's where I think the rut is pretty well towards the end of it. So the genetics have been passed, and now it's time to reduce some of the big stuff off of there. And they even want to take out the females. So, like I said, at this point, if everything has been bred, and if you knock out, if there's 100 does on that place and you knock out 20, chances are after the rut that those others are pretty well inseminated. Yeah. So you're going to get that offspring for the next year as well. So, this, like I said, it's an invitation only type affair. And, the guys from Spain Safaris, because of the time zone, I was the one that was actually begging for this thing to kind of happen with them over the last couple of years and said, look, we need to do this with a more intimate setting of people, that the language barrier isn't so out of control. I mean,
were you the only American there the first time?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was the only American the first time.
So you understood.
So there was actually 4 Russians. One that we won't talk about too much, but he was pretty much a pig. A guy actually brought prostitutes to the deal, thinking that we would be impressed, and we were far but anything but impressed. And that's just, again, that's perspective. That's how other people live and think. Good. But this time around, it's a more intimate setting. There's 20 people. There's 20 hunters. There's 20 hunters. The hunters can bring a wife. It's $450 more to bring the wife, and if you don't
per day or for the whole thing.
What's that?
Per day.
450 total for the 3-4 days. Huh. So it's actually it's quite affordable for the wife to come. And this is the same thing as I tell anybody, anytime, anywhere. Do the smart thing. Bring the wife with you. We all need our alone time, without a doubt. We need our man time. We need our woman time. You can choose something to do that, but when you're coming to South Africa and you're coming to Spain, the smartest thing that you can do is truly bring the wife, because the next time you want to go do this, you're not going to be finding yourself explaining why you need to spend this much money to go do something. You're going to tell your wife, hey, I'm thinking about going back to Spain, and she's going to go, when are we going? You're going to tell the wife, I'm thinking about going back to Africa, and she's going to say, when are we going? And it's much, much easier to get that hunt done when there's no animosity with that hunt. Does that make sense? She's on board too. Everybody's on board of why you need to spend this much money. When they're having that fun with you as well, then the money, the amount of money you're spending doesn't seem to be an issue, because you're both enjoying what's happening. Yeah. And I always say, I've talked to many people, bring the wife, because next time you don't have to practice and, talk in the mirror to yourself, over and over, rehearsing what you're going to say to the wife while you're going to spend, $6,000 to go to Spain for 4 days to, have an unlimited hunt and, eat this amazing food. And that, my friend, that's what makes it worth more than the hunt. I will tell you, you've heard me say it about South Africa as well. The hunting's fun. It is. But the travel, the outside activities that really are more important to me than the hunt itself.
It's just because I made it more fun. I'm checking.
Yeah, exactly. So, being left alongside the road while I'm trying to use the bathroom alongside the road there, because South Africa doesn't have a whole lot of rest stops, so to speak.
You made me pee on the side of the road.
Yeah, I did. But, it's like that old saying, where's the restroom? They're all around. Just pick one. Just find a tree and pick one and you're good to go. So, but, getting to travel around and see all the awesomeness that has been created, especially in old countries, South Africa, Fort Beaufort. I mean, my goodness, man, look, you're talking a British outpost from the 1860s that you guys have rebuilt and refurbished, and you literally stay in history. And some people will think I'm a kook or whatever, but I promise you, I can promise you that place is haunted. I actually, yeah. So yeah, without a doubt. I was staying in the main bedroom off of the dining hall, and the bathroom door was totally locked, closed. I shouldn't say locked, but it was closed. I've never seen a door open itself up all the way around 180 degrees to fold itself back up against a wall. I could understand it coming unlatched, but it came unlatched, and it literally moved and opened all the way back around. And I thought, oh, that's interesting.
How many gin and tonics did you have that night?
Not as many as I should have had. So, that was the year I was with my dad. We came out prior to doing the vow renewal in 2019. So that was 2018 that we did that. And, it was pretty cool. It really was.
But Pat, a lot of these things, and if somebody had to say to me, what is a pivotal moment in your hunting career that you would advise to many people? And one of them is building relationships. And I say that because I honestly, and I don't mean this, I mean this with the utmost respect to my fellow outfitters and PHs and stuff, and as well to clients, but something I've picked up recently, and I shouldn't also blame the auction system from like DSC and Safari Club and all of that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of chance takers in the industry. And when you find somebody, or whether it be a professional hunter or a certain outfitting company that you build a relationship with, I highly recommend you keep going back to them.
Without a doubt.
Because I just find a lot of these guys are trying to bounce hop between different safari companies and all that sort of stuff, and buying the cheap auctions and all of that, looking for a deal. It's a great way to try and save a bit of money, but once you build a relationship, you'll save money in the longer run anyway.
100%. I agree with that 100%, because the foolishness of bouncing from place to place, you're going to save a buck or two here and there, but tell you from having a bad experience more than one time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I was bouncing from place to place. It was simply because I did try to go with somebody new that I never knew on a hunt that I had never done, and they wound up to be bad experiences.
Yeah.
When you find the guy who's going to treat you right and go out of his way. I have this wonderful PH that wound up getting an Orby tag for me, and I honestly felt like I had won $100 million Powerball. You did. So on top of having a wonderful guide and that has now become family, it is one of those deals that you're foolish not to utilize that person. If he's worthwhile to hunt with that first time, and you like him and you find him knowledgeable, then by God, use him again. Use him again and again and again. Because if you treat him right and he's treating you right, you will become family, and he will go out of his way to do the things for you that you want to do. I mean, we're talking about doing, some of these out of country experiences now out of South Africa. We're talking about going to Namibia, and we're talking about going to the Zambezi River, and we're talking about going to Mozambique. If you're bouncing from place to place to place, is that guy, especially an auction deal,
it almost feels like you start from the bottom again.
You do, and the problem is that when you're starting with a guy at an auction, okay, he's already given that animal at a very, very, very discounted rate. Okay, he already knows, okay, this is a loser. He's planning on you shooting other animals so that he can make up the money that he's losing on that first animal. And the pressure is there to do exactly that. He needs to recoup that value of that animal by shooting multiple animals. Well, the last thing you want to do, and again, that was my first experience, was the animosity between us and our first PH. And the guy was telling us, you need to shoot this, you need to shoot that, and you could tell he was having money issues because the bank was calling him, and he was telling the bank, I'll have the money in a few days. I'll have the money. Well, if we're the only clients there right then, the money in a few days is us.
Yeah.
And then the pressure starts to happen. You need to shoot. I mean, to literally be told, I don't know, are we allowed to cuss on this at all?
Yeah.
Okay, so the guy literally stood there and told me, you need to shoot this fucking Impala because you will never see another one like this again. And if you don't shoot this, you're just a stupid fucking American. Okay, that's not a pleasant experience. I don't really care what your personal financials are. My personal financials are my problem too.
Yeah.
Keep them separate from what you're doing. And when you make it somebody else's problem, it turned into a very, very unpleasant hunt, a very unpleasant hunt. So do you really want to keep doing that by buying these auctions all the time? I could understand if you're buying an auction item. Let's throw out Charlie Daly. Okay. Wonderful guy. Him and Sarah both. Wonderful, wonderful people. He loves to buy the auction that Greg puts up. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Okay. Because you're buying the auction item that your friend that you hunt with is putting up. So now okay, here's an animal that you're helping him because he knows who you are. He knows that, if I'm going to lose it on something, I'm going to lose it on a client that, that really is a return client. They respect me. They're not just a transient that's jumping from camp to camp to camp, from auction to auction item,
But it also kind of helps Greg in the long run, or ACR or whoever, driving the price up a little bit. And
a little bit.
Adding some sort of value to the package.
Yeah, exactly. It does. But I think, I do buy auction items. I do. When I see things, and a lot of people hate me, because if you're going to go to a charitable event, okay, that animal or that product or whatever that's on that auction that you're bidding on was intended for one purpose. It was given in hopes that we are going to raise money for whatever charity that we're fighting for. So why in the hell do you want to pay nothing for it? Let's pay something for it. I will go to many, many events throughout the year, and I will drive the price on anything I can. Locally here, I mean, we talked about this. We went to the Friends of the NRA in Prescott, and one of those things is don't ever challenge me, because especially by saying they don't have as much money as we do, so they're not getting this gun. And well, for a Henry Golden boy, that should have been about, I don't know, maybe around $1,800. He paid almost $4,000, and I made it very aware that I wasn't going to back down anytime soon, and then I dumped it on him. So there you go. I raised a lot of money for the NRA that night, and I'll do the same with a lot of other animals. Sometimes I end up with them. That's fine. I don't care. I mean, at the end of the day, the idea is that we're raising money for either conservation, or, if it's NRA, then it's raising money to fight legislation against gun control. So why do we want to do it for nothing?
Yeah.
You know, so run the prices up a little bit. Don't be afraid to pay for something. And in the long run, you're going to have a great time if you continue to keep going with the same outfitter or PH or whatever you want to call that company that you're going with. And, you know, my goodness, man, I've spent a birthday with your child. Although I will say, I was reprimanded heavily on that it's not a castle. They are castles. So
Because you talk properly down there.
I think well, that's what you say anyway, but my English seems to be a whole lot more proper than yours. But, you know, that's what you can build is you can build a friendship. You can build a relationship. When you shed a tear and you walk away from your friend at the end of 2 weeks, you know that you've meant something to each other.
Yeah.
You know that you shared something that neither one of you can ever get back again. And I kind of getting a little emotional about it myself right now because, you know, tomorrow you take off, you go to Phoenix and you stay in a hotel and then the next morning you fly out.
Yeah.
So you only get a limited amount of time
Yeah.
with somebody special. And if you have a PH that's special, if you have an organization that you hunt with that is special, why in the hell do you want to go anywhere else just to save a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 or whatever it is
In the short term.
in the short term?
Because in the long, one of the things that's been said a lot around the booth is that when the first time comers to Africa are always going to want to come back. So you need to look at it as some sort of investment because you're investing into a safari company, into an individual, or whatever the case may be, for the long run.
Right.
Because you're going to come back.
Yeah.
And once you've tasted Africa once, you're going to keep.
You know, and that was the one thing that the first meathead that I had, as hard as he tried to ruin that for me, the draw of South Africa was something that I'll never outlive. I will never outlive that. My goal is to go back as many times as I can and eventually even move there when I retire, part-time there, part-time here. And, you know, and God forbid if we get too many more Bidens, I'll be living down there all the time. Man, I'm done with this guy. So it just, you know, why would you want to ruin something so good? Take that relationship and keep taking it to the next level all the time. Do the first for him. Do the first for yourself. You know, how many Orby have you shot? You know, as a guide, how many have you guided?
2.
2?
Yeah.
Who was your first?
You.
Okay. Pretty good privilege. Who was your first blue diker?
It was about 4 years ago.
Okay.
Mark. Oh, can't remember his name now.
Okay. Well, I kind of put you on the spot there a little bit, but you remember him, you know, and that's not, there's no shame in that. I mean, when we all have, you know, you start talking 4 years goes by and things like that, and you can remember the guy's name is Mark. You know what his face looks like.
Yeah.
If you met him, if you saw him right now,
I've got a photo of him on my phone.
yeah.
I mean,
You would know who he is, and you'd put a smile on your face because you shared an intimate moment. And you know, I don't know how many blue dikers you've done. You know, I know that you did one with me at the same time, and that was a very special moment. You know, the clip springers and, you know, all these different things. You know, get into shoot a buffalo together. Some scary moments. You know, I mean, having a buffalo kind of track us there, and it was which I feel. I'm about 95% certain he was wanting to have his way with us just a little bit, because he wasn't backing down at all. So, you know, the scary moments, the happy moments, the sad moments, the whole generality of it becomes something bigger than just the hunt. And to keep going and bouncing around, you're going to lose that. You're going to lose the camaraderie. You know, is it cool to get to go do other things? Sure it is. When we go to Zambezi, we're going to be on somebody else's concession. So we're going to meet new people there. We are.
Mark Skoltz. Sorry.
There you go. So there's your blue darker. Mark Skoltz, congratulations. He remembered your name. So, but, you know, when we go to Zambezi, we're going to go fishing. And, you know, who knows? Maybe a croc, maybe, who knows? Whatever. But we're going to meet other people at that camp. It doesn't mean that the camaraderie doesn't stop with other people. It just means that camaraderie grows because now you also are meeting new people. You're introducing me to more people that you know as well. And that circle of like people gets bigger and bigger all the time. That is one thing that I've grown to love, especially. I think that's why I like Fort Beaufort so much, Rocklands, is that you sit outside in that fire and everybody gathers around and PHs and cooks are cooking, they're braaiing, which we would consider, you know, basically cooking steaks on a grill.
Don't change it. Don't change it. It's braai.
Well, people don't know what braai is. They're meathead.
Barbecue.
Yeah. It's not a barbecue. It's not smoked. Texans will get after you for that, buddy. So, so this is what it's like on a daily basis with us, folks. You know, if we're not busting each other's stones, I don't know what else we do. You know, but so you know, to sit around and you know, you guys are cooking, you know, lamb chops or steaks up on the grill. You know, the coiled sausages, you know, kudu sausages, things like that. The rooster brute, which is a grilled bread.
Oh, Pat.
I think I butchered it.
Yeah,
that's okay.
completely.
Well, I don't speak your language, son. So,
Rooster bread.
yeah, there you go. I think exactly. But, you know.
It was a good try.
It was a good try. I mean, it's just the English version of rooster bread. So, I think I got leka down, though.
The what?
Leka.
Yeah.
So,
and I heard you throwing cuck every now and then in the booth.
But, you know, getting to sit around that fire and the camaraderie that you get, because it's a smaller setting at Rocklands. It only handles so many people, so you tend to open up that camaraderie. I do almost believe that that's where I met Andrew Vina. Was at Rocklands. I don't recall 100%, but I do think that him and I sat on the porch watching animals in the valley from Rocklands. It just, in my mind's eye, and you have to kind of forgive me, folks, because literally I did almost die from COVID this year, and it will affect your brain. Don't let them tell you anything different, because you will. I used to have an amazing memory, and I have a hard time remembering words and situations
he's trying
now.
to talk Afrikaans now as well.
Right, exactly. But you know, but there's a lot of good people that I have met. You know, we just, you know, we did a memorial for Bruce Woodward. You know, at the booth there. You know, and you know, losing a member of our society.
Yeah.
You know, our close-knit society, because these are all Hunters Hill hunters, you know.
Like-minded people.
Exactly, but we were Hunters Hill groups.
Yeah.
You know?
It became like a community.
It is. It is its own little community. Yeah. We may not be there at the same time, but we end up, you know, you got Tim and Chrissy Sargent. You know, we signed them up in Scottsdale. Gosh, what was that?
2 years ago.
Yeah, it would have been 2 years ago, because...
3 years ago.
No, it was only 2, because it would have been March of 20, and then they came in 21. So they were there in June.
In 20. Yeah, we did, huh?
Yeah, we closed in 20, right after the show. Exactly. In fact, the South Africans that were at the show we ended up hauling booths back away from that show and storing them for the next year and a half for them, because they had to be back in country within 48 hours or they couldn't come home. So, you know, we helped them out with that type of situation. But Chrissy and Tim Sargent came, and, you know, we ended up hunting.
That's definitely something I've seen. Sorry to interrupt you, Pat, was how meeting each other from different environments, but still, like I said, having the like-mindedness of one another. Because I mean, you guys have formed like your own little communication patterns and everything. It's pretty cool to see, because I mean, you know, you and Andy were talking way before we even got out here for the shows, and
Yeah.
you know, you and Charlie and all of them. So it's cool, and it's nice to see. It's pleasing to see such things happen, because you know, often you wonder after a safari, like you say, you don't want to just become a number at a certain place.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have that intimacy. You want to be remembered for what it is, and to form a community like that away from what we actually see back at the lodge and all this sort of stuff is something really, really unique. And I don't think there's a lot of outfitting companies that can say that out there, which is really, really unique.
I don't think they could. Not to the extent. Kudos to Greg. You know, he really has built a concession that, you know, a larger number of people could come through at the same time, building that community. You know, I've been in other concessions and other hunts and things like that around the world where that concession, they do have other hunters in the camp, and you still develop that same camaraderie, but it's just a very, very small scale, unlike Hunter's Hill, where, you know, you can build a much bigger community around you and intimacy, if you will, out of that community. You know, you know, you always risk that chance that you're always going to have somebody in that camp, and it doesn't matter. No matter where you go, even if it's just you and that PH, if the guy's a bad guy, it's no good. You know, I mean, so you're always going to have that chance that somebody in camp could be, you know, a jackass. I mean, here's the sable that the guy literally, cold, rainy, we take the sable, tracked him for, I don't know, man, geez, we must have stalked him for probably close to 2 miles in the drizzling rain to pouring rain, back to drizzling rain, get a shot off on him finally. And, you know, we get back to camp and it was cold and miserable. So I kind of sat in a chair next to the fire, and I was camped out sleeping. And a guy literally wakes me up to say, mine was bigger. So after I held his head under the water level out in the pool out there for just about 10 minutes, he kind of gave up on telling me whose was bigger. But I didn't really, but I felt like it. I mean, why in the world would you wake somebody up just to say something like that? I mean, to me, I'm more congratulatory. You know what? If you shoot something bigger than me, God bless you.
Yeah, good on you.
You know what? Good on you, man. You know, but at the end of the day, if that's what, if that's all you're in it for is, my stones are bigger than yours, then find something else.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to be satisfied with whatever you do in hunting, because by God, if somebody shoots something bigger, you're going to be destroyed. And rather than be congratulatory to them, you know, you're going to be destroyed inside, and that's just not what hunting should be about. You know, and again, that's like I said, the camaraderie, and that's the other part. By the way, in case anybody hears some funny noises, that is not us. We're in my kitchen, and unfortunately, I own 2 French bulldogs, and they tend to make some various noises and some very foul odors at times. So if you hear something, it's not us, it's them. But
and the reason why we didn't put this podcast on the video is because we're all sitting here in our jocks. No,
just yeah. No. All out, balls out, they say. So, but you know, in hunting, in life, in business, in all of it, I've always lived my life with one thing: honesty means everything. You've heard me say it. You recently heard me say it to a new hire at my shop. You've heard me say it to a business partner, so to speak, about a gentleman who was trying to being a selling agent. And I said, I just can't be part of something that is dishonest
Yeah.
And that's why I can't be with this said person. You know, if you will sell your soul to sell a hunt, then what will you do otherwise?
You're doing it for the wrong reasons.
You're doing it for the wrong reasons, and not only that, but you're going to take advantage of me in another way, some way down the line. Yeah. If you can't be honest with me about the simplest of things, then this is just where we cut the relationship, because there's no reason. Two things in the only two rules in life to live by in my book when it comes to dealing with your fellow man is don't lie and don't steal.
Yeah.
That it trumps everything. It trumps everything. You can't do him dirt if you're not going to lie to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because
dishonesty covers all of that. If you're being dishonest in any shape or form, it is a lie. So if you're borrowing your neighbor's lawnmower without him knowing it, it's dishonesty. You're lying to him. You know, and that's where I think the hunting community has gotten to a point in some of these places, and it's sad to say. One of them was Texas. One of them burned me in Texas, and it was actually quite embarrassing because I actually took two clients and my father to this guy, and he burned me. He was extremely dishonest, and I will say at the same time, if you're going to play games like that, then unfortunately with social media nowadays, I didn't lie. I specifically put on the social media exactly what the man did to us. He called it a lodge, and it was a 1963 mobile home that was about 6 inches out of level on a hill, no heat, in one of the coldest winters that Texas had had.
He sold you the experience, Pat.
Yeah, it was an experience. It was an experience. You're right. I mean, there literally was no gas in the place, so that's why there was no heat. The guy was the pH, if you will, which was one of the most dirtiest. What little bit of the food that we did eat, we didn't want to eat, but we were starving. We did not want to eat the food because he was disgustingly dirty. And then what little food we did eat was bad, and it made us all sick. Yeah,
that's triple. I got sick on that.
Yeah. So you know, when you're sitting in a hog stand waiting for hogs to come in at midnight, and you got the door open and you're chucking out the back, it's not a good experience. Yeah. You know, and you know, that's going to happen. And honestly, you know, we as hunters have gotten to a point where we need to talk to each other, and we need to say, we need to set standards for our industry. When somebody does somebody dirt, we need to put it out there. Social media is there for a reason. We can all connect with each other. Hunting for Connections is a great place to go to. You know, you can find out who's doing who dirt and who's doing people good services. I use Hunting for Connections all the time. When somebody does me a good service, I will tell you about it. And I will tell you about it multiple times. Just my experience in this last time in Spain, I told of each individual hunt and each individual trip, not even just because we weren't even hunting, like the days that we did the traveling around and we went to these Catholic cathedrals and these presidential palaces and things like that. I told of those experiences, and I wanted people to know that, you know, Spain Safaris, Luis in particular, I'm not saying that Pedro or Juan Carlos aren't good guys, but they haven't guided me. They haven't PH'd me. They haven't been my tour guide. Luis did a fantastic job for me, you know, and the love of his country showed in what he showed us.
Yeah, because the passion came through.
Yeah, and that's where, as a hunting society, we need to stop allowing these dirt bags to come in and do these things, and more importantly, as a hunting community, stop the damn bickering. If one guy uses a bow and one guy uses a rifle, who cares?
We all there.
Who cares? The same. We're all there for the hunt. What tool you use does not matter. Okay. You know, then you get the guys, you know, the Eastmans, you know, I'm going to throw that name out there because they are the ones that push nonstop. If it's not fair chase, don't hunt it. Oh, you mean when you got in your $100,000 rig and your $150,000 fifth wheel and you pulled it up to the backcountry and then you struck out and did a tent camp from there? That was fair chase? How did, I don't remember elk having, an $80,000 Dodge Diesel to drive out to the woods. That's not fair chase. Define fair chase. You want fair chase? We should be in a loincloth with an obsidian knife hunting them by hand. That's fair chase. Fair chase is something different to everybody, and each hunt is different to everybody. Stop busting each other's balls over it.
But I think that's definitely an issue we've always had as hunters, is that, and it's the progression. It's the whole thing. It's crazy that we don't want to back ourselves, and while we're not backing ourselves, the greenies are coming in and taking they just taking pure opportunities out of it to leap, and we're losing our touch on wildlife as such, because
That's
the more we focusing about ourselves, bitching and moaning in between one another about tree stands, this, that, and then the next thing. The greenies are coming in the back door and they're getting away with a hell of a lot of things. You just told me now that they can't import trophies into LA. I see Europe's
California. All of California. You cannot, they have voted it in. I don't know when it actually takes, effect. But they have voted in that there is no more importation of non-domestic trophies into the state of California. So what that means is that if you're a resident of the state of California, you can't go to South Africa. You can't go to Spain. You can't.
Technically, exotic animal you bring
right.
back.
Technically, you can't even go to Canada and kill a bighorn sheep because there are no Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep in California. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't know that there's any Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep. I know that there are desert bighorn sheep in California, but I don't know there to be any Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep. I know there's no Dall sheep, so they're out.
There's definitely no springbucks. So
There's no but even American animals, there's no moose in California. So what that ruling, that law says is that there is no non-domestic, and does that mean domestic to the state of California? This is where they're going with it. And now they're even saying that they're trying to outlaw, and it sounds like they're going to get it done. They're going to outlaw the possession of any trophy animal. So in other words, it doesn't matter what you have, it's illegal. Couple this with Colorado. Colorado is most likely going to make this happen on the next voting session. It will be on the ballot. It's called the Ungulate Bill. And because people, again, this is where education comes into this whole deal. And that's why I'm saying that we as hunters need to stop bitching at each other and start working together for the common cause. We all know what an ungulate is. An ungulate is a deer. It's an elk. It's a moose. Those are ungulates. Okay.
So Colorado's bringing this in.
Yes, because they brought back the wolf. And the way they're sneaking the non-hunting thing in is that the animal rights activists have figured out a way, and they say, "Oh, look what we've done. We brought back the elk. Brought back the wolves, and how great we're doing this. But we really need to protect these wolves. We need to protect the wolves." And right now, they're not protected enough because they have competition for food. Well, the only competition for food they have is man, the hunter. So if the Ungulate Bill passes, there will be no hunting in Colorado for deer.
Isn't Colorado like one of the biggest destinations for
it is elk, deer, moose. There is the Shiras moose is in Colorado as well, and then they're going to move to the bear, and then they're going to move to the sheep. Sheep actually fall under ungulates. Okay, split hooves. So there's no sheep. There's nothing like that will be huntable in that state anymore.
But everything I've read though, Pat, wolves and stuff, they pack animals, eh? So
yeah.
So it's not like a normal dog where a dog will kill for fun or something like that.
No, wolves will kill for fun too.
Really?
Yes, sir. The problem
is
is
that wrong? Because I remember people saying that the deer population's dwindled since they introduced them.
massively. Minnesota. I mean, you go try to find a moose in Minnesota. They've wiped them out.
So there's no ways, if they do get rid of that bill, there's no ways to actually preserve elk numbers.
No.
Or deer numbers.
No. So
It's free for all the wolves.
Yellowstone, there's been some great studies on the Yellowstone. The amount of elk, with the elk population prior to the reintroduction of wolves to where it is now is, I mean, it's literally in the tens, I should say the single digit percentages from what it was. They're just not there. They're not there anymore. They wiped them clean, man. You know, and the problem is that when they reintroduce the wolves, these are not the wolves that were there. These are hybrids.
From like Russia
It's not necessarily from Russia. They've crossbred these wolves with other wolves. Okay, these are not the wolves that were there originally. You know, man did a bad thing. The man wiped out the wolves. I get it. Terrible thing. We damn near wiped out the buffalo. Terrible thing. But when man touches anything, thinking he's doing it better, we tend to screw it up. You know?
Than what we actually do.
If we would have just left it alone, the wolves would have actually reintroduced themselves into Montana, Idaho, all those areas, Wyoming, and so much, and worked their way south, because the numbers would have been better, and they would have been working their way down. But we decided that we needed to play a hand in this and get these numbers up. Okay, in a wolf pack society, and again, this is all from articles that I've read. I'm no expert. Don't hate mail. Okay. But from things that I have read is that a typical wolf pack is never really over 10 or 12 animals. Okay, the main pack in Yellowstone is over 30 strong, because there's an alpha female and an alpha male, and they dictate how big that pack is. Okay, the alpha female will kill the pups of the other female wolves, and that allows for them to feed her young, making those replacements stronger, and it keeps control of how big that pack can be. You know, I have an uncle that, unfortunately, God rest his soul, he passed away a couple years ago. He used to trap wolves. You know, we're talking, you know, this is back in, you know, the 30s and 40s and things like that. You're talking about a man who was born in I think he was born in 1922, something of that nature. So he can remember, even, you know, as a young child, his father teaching him how to trap and stuff. And he will tell you point blank, or he would have anyways if he was still alive, the wolves that were reintroduced are not the wolves that were there. They are massively bigger than what was there originally. Massively bigger. And the packs are bigger than what was there, because they don't have an alpha female and alpha male to control the pack. They are growing out of control.
But no one's. You guys can't regulate the wolf numbers.
Well, we're trying. I mean, you know,
tags
states
for wolves.
Well, Montana, Idaho, I think Wyoming did it, and every time they seem to open up these wolf hunts, they shut them down.
As quickly as
the anti-hunters shut them down. Oh my God, you're killing the wolves. We kill deer, we kill elk, we kill everything all the time.
It's like this crazy thing that we create this screwed up ecosystem, and now we want to screw it up more by trying to be wise, and we actually just doing more harm than anything else.
Well, right here in Arizona, I mean, we have. This is a sad ordeal, because we have so many mountain lions. Prescott right here, and specifically, there's way too many mountain lions here.
Did Peanut show you that photo?
Yeah.
That one on the driveway.
Oh, the driveways. I mean, you're talking.
There's bobcats and
there's lions and everything
apparently
else.
they've been eating guys' dogs and shit.
Oh man, yeah, they are. they're doing very well. But just, you know where my shop is, and within 1 mile by Bird's Flight, okay, there's a guy who had a Ring camera system on his doorway. And I don't know if you guys know what Ring system is. Basically, it's a doorbell, yes,
yeah.
But it's a camera, and it's a motion detector, and it picks up things. There was 4 adult mountain lions walking up his walkway. Okay, It's in the city limits. It's in the city limits. We're not talking.
Shop?
This is not out of city limits. This is one guy's cabin, and he's we're talking about houses on lots, on quarter-acre lots, and there's 4 adult mountain lions walking up his sidewalk. Okay, you have too many cats. There's only supposed to be, according to Arizona statute, and studies and stuff, there's only supposed to be 1 mountain lion for every 6 square miles and all blah blah blah. Okay, well, in this general vicinity, they're guesstimating that there's about 400. Okay,
and what, you guys can't hunt them in there?
You can hunt them, but and here again, this is one of those deals. You get, again, PH's guides, however you want to call it, they also need to be wiser too. Okay, you can try to make $1 million off of one thing, or you can make a little bit of money off of multiple things and stay busy year round. For all those months that you're feeding your dogs, that you have 30 in a pack or 40 in a pack or whatever to hunt mountain lions, and you're feeding those dogs, 50-pound sacks a day. Yeah, I'm sure it is expensive. Yeah. But if you only hunt 5 mountain lions a year because you're charging $8,000 or $10,000 to do it, for God's sakes, there's mountain lions everywhere here.
So you can hunt as many as you can.
Yeah, drop your price a little bit, drop it down to 5, and hunt 1 a month, and you're going to make more money than if you only shot a couple a year. Work off of that and help get these mountain lions back into a sustainable amount of mountain lions. And right now what's happening is they're wreaking havoc on the deer population. They're wreaking havoc on the dogs. Pets. Dude, they're taking pets out left and right, man.
I know, but Pat, and I find it so absurd because just before we came out here, sorry, we're gonna have to wrap up this podcast here. I'm sure Ash and them are coming on soon. But just quickly, before we came out here, we had that big sheep sale and goat sale and stuff. Literally let's call it a week before the sale, a brown hyena came onto our property and smashed 13 goats. Didn't eat them, just killed them for fun. Okay. And you cannot get a tag to hunt that thing. And you cannot get a tag, you can't get an export permit to, no matter where you are, for that specific animal in the US. So no one's going to hunt that animal. But let me tell you what is going to happen. Our surrounding neighbors, wherever they may be, because the brown hyena can travel as far, it's got such a wide circle of territory. They're going to poison that thing, put it in the biggest warthog hole, and no one's ever going to know that thing was ever there. That's the sad thing about it, is when
it's going to be wasted rather than utilize what's happening. Yeah. It's the same thing with the elephants, man. When you look at, oh gosh, who was it that outlawed the elephants? Was it Mozambique or Zimbabwe?
No, Kenya.
It was Kenya. Okay, yeah. So Kenya went from what, like 30? It was like 32 or 33,000 elephants.
I'm gonna put the photo on this podcast. I need to show you this photo of the elephants. There was a photo taken out of a helicopter during the Great Migration of elephants, and they counted 1,700 elephants crossing the Messiah Plains to Kenya.
Yeah,
and I'm going back way now. I'm probably 1960s something. We call them the olden days when the black and white photos.
Yeah, it's a little bit before my time too. So don't worry.
But it's crazy, and I literally did a podcast with a good mate of mine, old Jerry King, when he was working up there in Kenya, and he was just telling me of all the photos and stuff that you could see during the Great Migration of just herds and herds and herds of animals. And since they closed the hunting in the 70s, I think they closed it, it's been decimated because nothing's protecting it.
So it wasn't Kenya that I'm speaking of. This is recent. This is in like the last probably 8 years. And I wish in the one that we were talking about, and even Ivan Carter was doing a big special on this deal.
Okay.
Craig Boddington. There was like 32 or 33,000 elephants estimated in this country. They outlawed the hunting of that animal, and the farmers and the locals just started slaughtering them because they couldn't compete for the feed. Okay,
Especially not against the elephant.
and not against an elephant who is massive. He is very. People don't want to know that an elephant is detrimental to the environment. I mean, they destroy some environment. If they don't like a damn tree, they just push it over.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just is what they are. And rather than keep, you know, so these farmers, rather than being able to know that they were going to get some money from the hunting of that elephant,
Yeah.
okay, they when they were getting money from that elephant, they had a reason to protect the elephant, to protect the population. And whatever little bit of money they got off their crops was just a bonus because they were making more off of the sale of the elephant.
Yeah.
So in the end,
And we're not talking about wiping out the herd. We're just talking about taking out the one problem elephant. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
One problem elephant, or even you know 2 or 3 or whatever. You know, if there's a herd of 100 around there, you obviously can take 1 to 2 animals a year.
Yeah.
Because they're a little bit transient as well. Another one's going to come into the herd. Another one's going to leave the herd. You know, it's going to move in and out. But they stopped it, and those farmers knew right away. They were like, man, we're screwed. They're gonna decimate everything we have. And Ivan Carter even had it on TV, and he walked up as this baby elephant that was maybe a year old, you know, was taking its last breath because it was shot. That is not a poacher. That is not a hunter. That is a farmer.
Looking after his land.
He's looking out for his land. There has to be a balance. Man, everybody wants to put everything back in the animal's favor. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not. That has gone too far away, and we have to learn to live sustainably with each other now. It isn't one or the other, but we have to figure out what that is. Yes. Okay. Couple that again with education, and this is where I see the downfall. We're gonna circle this back to DSC and SCI. How many people, and I'm even talking about these people who are listening to us right now, how many people don't know that a damn rhino horn grows back? You're not told this. We're not educated enough on this side of the world to know that a rhino horn grows back. It's basically nothing but a fingernail. Okay? If it can grow back, then why are we outlawing the sale of the rhino horn? The number one thing you should do is actually sell the damn rhino horn. You'd cripple the poachers immediately because you would drop all the rhino horn on the market. That would drive the market price down on rhino horn.
Kill the demand.
The Chinamen would get their whoop-de-woos up, and everybody would be happy. Okay?
Yeah.
And you would find, just like they did here in the United States, we talked about this, where there's a lot of these guys who have elk farms and deer farms and stuff. They don't have elk farms and deer farms for the hunting. They have elk farms and deer farms for velvet. They're cutting the horns off of these animals, and they're creating velvet pills because velvet is supposed to be this big natural cure for many, many things. So that's what they're doing. That's what those are about. You would find that the rhino population in 30 years would be almost unsustainable because everybody would be farming rhinos. Think about it. Every guy with 3,000 acres of land in Africa, on the African continent, would be like, bring me 5 rhinos, you know, because every 3 years I'm gonna be able to knock these 2 horns off of this sucker, and I can sell it off, and everything's good. And nobody's gonna poach it because he already has a market for it. But it's such a small market that it doesn't demand that $50,000 payoff for some jackass to go out there and shoot it in the middle of the damn night and cut its horn off.
Yeah, hack its horn.
And the animal stays alive. We know it because we've done it. You've done it. You know that you've done it without in the past few months. You guys, you have knocked down some rhinos, in the sense of, when I say knocked down, you have darted them, you've put them down into a deep sleep. You take the horn off, you give them the Vitidart, you give them the antidote, they get up and they go, what the hell happened to the thing that I was just staring at here? And they run off.
My head's a whole lot lighter.
Yeah, exactly. And there you go. I mean, and that's what we're having to do. We're actually having to destroy an animal's natural beauty because some jackass is poaching it so that some jackass can get his hoo-hawker up. You know what I mean? It's ignorant. And if we just learn to stop the fighting amongst the hunters and start educating people around us. I took that little bit of knowledge. When I found that out, I felt like the biggest idiot in the world. That I was like, "Are you serious?" I mean, man, I looked at you and I said, "No, you're serious." And you were like, "Yeah, it grows back." And I was like, "You're shitting me." It took me a day to finally believe, and talking to other people, that you weren't pulling my leg, So why in the hell don't we have them? Because we're too damn dumb fighting with each other over, is it, are you a real hunter because you use a broadhead? Or are you a real hunter because you use just a single blade? Is it mechanical? Is it, this? Is it...
Out of a tree stand?
Yeah, out of a tree stand, Yeah. Are you like Eddie and standing in a tree chucking, spears at people, What is most important to everybody?
That's the reason why I think a lot of us started things like the podcasting and stuff. It's not just to sit around a table and talk a whole bunch of shit, but it's also to try and educate people of the unknown as much as possible. But I also think the biggest mistake a lot of people that don't understand hunting happens, and they get caught up in the individual animal. So that specific rhino shedding a tear, whatever the case may be, and they forget about the impact something like that has on the species. And we often want to put individual aspects out there on certain specific instances that have happened. What was the famous lion? What was his name? Cecil the lion.
Yeah.
The one individual animal, and we forget about the species. But
and we've done nothing but done absolute detrimental damage to the lion population because of it.
Yeah.
So, well, I know we can go about this all night, man. But
I can hear your wife's aging to come home.
That isn't so much the part, but I know at some point people are going to get tired of listening to us. A couple of yammering fools.
Before we close, Scottsdale, you're going to do the show there. When is it? How can the people get hold of you?
Okay, so
am I putting you on the spot?
No.
I'll put your details in the description below.
Yeah. So I am always available for anybody. Again, I don't make any money. So there they are.
Yeah, that's the dogs.
There's the dogs. Welcome home. I'm not making any money at this. I just want to help as many people as I can to know that who you can trust, who you can't trust in this game. I mean, and I hate to say that as a game, but that kind of is what it is it's turned into this game because there's a few of these putzes out there that just want to make $1.
Yeah.
And I'm not about making $1, man. I want to see people have a good time, and I want to see these wonderful places like South Africa continue to stay there, and my friends be able to do the things they're doing. So, Sportsman's Expo, International Sportsman's Expo, or maybe it's Sportsman's International Expo. I have no idea. Something of that nature. But it's in Scottsdale. It is March 24th to the 27th, so that is a Thursday to a Sunday. We'll have a booth there for Hunter's Hill. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody about Spain safaris at the same time. I'll be happy to talk to anybody about any kind of hunt that I've done. If I've done it and you want to know, I will tell you what I've done and what I feel is the right way, wrong way, or who to use or who not to use. Pick my brain. It's not going to take very long. I'll tell you that. But come see us. If you ever need to call me, area code 928-899-1221 is my cell phone number. Please, wherever you're calling from, please remember that this is Arizona time zone, please. So, don't call me from New York, at 6:00 your time, because I'm probably going to be a little angry at you, but I'll get over it. So, just be wary of your time zones, but I'm here for anybody, anytime. If you need to know something, I'll be more than happy to sit down and talk to you on the phone if it's what what I would recommend to do a travel, for flights from point to A to point B, what to expect when you reach a destination point in a foreign country with a weapon. I'll be more than happy to talk to you if it's, if you want to talk about what animals you should try to target. I'll be more than happy to talk to you. So, like I said, I'm not the world's smartest man. I have a little saying: I'd rather be lucky than good, and the good Lord has blessed me in a way that I'm able to travel quite a few places and do quite a few things that many can't. And I know that many of you may not get the chance to do all the things that I've done. But if there's one thing that I have done that interests you, for goodness sakes, call me. I'm here for you. I'm actually a pretty likable guy. My wife might argue with you, but I'm a pretty likable guy, and I'll help you with whatever you need to, whether it be talking about, what to expect for COVID issues during flights, all that good stuff. And if you need to talk to somebody else further, then I can line you up with the right people. So if you get interested in doing a hunt in, say, Spain, then I will talk to you as much as I can. And then if you want to move on from there, then I'll give you the emails of Luis and Pedro and Juan Carlos and all the guys, and you can go from there. And if you want to talk to somebody in South Africa, again, it's just harder because these are people that are in such a unique time zone that it's damn near 12 hours difference between the areas that we're going. So be respectful of that time when you're trying to contact these people, and don't think that they're putting you off. If you call them at 12 o'clock our time, they're sleeping. So just understand that. You just have to kind of plan it around. But Dylan, love you, man.
Pet man, love you too, my friend. It's been an hour and it's almost 2 hours.
Almost 2 hours. Well, hey,
of pure conversation, and there's still so much we didn't even touch on Russia and all that sort of stuff.
Well,
so
we'll
have to save that for the June.
There's not going to be any Russia for this guy for a while because our good buddies Putin and Biden are trying to ruin that. But there's a whole lot to go, and of course that again goes into politics. But as we can for this time, this is where we'll have to call it good, and I'm just going to have to get myself down to South Africa, which we already know, just in case anybody's listening. Hey, my birthday is June 23rd. It's my big fat 5-0 this year. So if you feel like you need to buy me an animal, send it my way. We'll be more than happy to oblige.
There you go. Well, Pet Man, thank you so much, my friend, and we'll do this again in June.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.